Good evening, everybody. How are you? Good. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. On behalf of UNC Asheville's Office of Cultural Events and Special Academic Programs, I'd like to welcome you to our campus tonight. I wanted to say a few quick thank yous to our series sponsor, Biltmore Farms Hotels, and also to our cultural events committee here at UNC Asheville, which is made up of faculty, students, and staff members who work really hard to find and decide on events, speakers, and cultural events that really fit in with what we're studying on campus in our curriculum, as well as current issues that students are really concerned about, as well as our community members. Just a quick mention, one of the ways that we decide on what we're going to offer and what we're going to present to the committee is from feedback from students, community members, audience members. So if you haven't visited our website in the past, just to give you that address, it's cesap.unca.edu. And if you click on our cultural events page, you can fill out an online survey where you can give us your feedback, not only on tonight's talk and our other performances, but to give us ideas of issues, speakers, performers that you would like to see us bring to UNC Asheville. So please take advantage of that. If you don't really like to go online, we also have some paper surveys in the back, and we encourage you to fill those out as well, just to let us know what you would like to see and what you thought of what you have seen here. I also wanted to just remind you of our next event that we have coming up on April 11th. We will be welcoming in this very room to kick off our Native American Speaker Series, Chief Michelle Hicks of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. And he is going to speak to us at 12:30 around lunchtime on Cherokee sovereignty issues and institutions. So we invite you all back for that. I wanted to talk a little bit about how this event tonight came about. As I mentioned, we do like to get a lot of student input on who we're going to bring here, and we had worked with a few students from ASH, our campus's environmental organization, student organization, and there was a student who I believe has graduated. His name is Macon, and he actually suggested that we bring Larry Gibson, who was with the Keeper of the Mountains Foundation, and he did a lot of work preserving his 50 acres on Cayford Mountain in West Virginia from mountaintop removal coal mining. And so we were very excited to bring him here. He did unfortunately pass away in 2012 before we could have the chance to meet him. I know there are a lot of students and faculty here at UNC Asheville who did get the chance to meet him. But while we're disappointed by that, we are so thrilled to welcome two other speakers tonight from the Keeper of the Mountains Foundation. Junior Walk is our keynote speaker. He is a member of Keeper of the Mountains Foundation. He also works giving talks with the Coal River Mountain Watch, Radical Action for Mountain People's Survival, or RAMPS, to help end mountaintop removal coal mining. Junior is also a recipient of the prestigious Brower Youth Award, and he travels the country to educate people on these really important issues. With Junior tonight, he has brought a new member to the Keeper of the Mountains Foundation's Speakers Bureau, Chase Brown. And I had the privilege of having dinner with some students and faculty members and these two wonderful gentlemen that you're about to meet. And I think you will just find their stories to be very compelling and very educational. So just one other quick mention. At the end of the talk, there will be a question and answer period. Tonight's session is being recorded, and it will appear probably in a few weeks on Asheville Educational Television. It will also be available through the UNC Asheville website, probably tomorrow or later this week. So when the talk is over, the microphone is actually located right there, and we'd encourage you, if you have questions, to come up to the microphone. Having that said, I'm just so overjoyed to have these two wonderful speakers here tonight. So I would like to first introduce to you Mr. Chase Brown.
How's everybody doing this evening? Well, we are here with the Keepers of the Mountains Foundation, and like she said, we're going to be telling you some stories. I'm going to start with mine and then turn it over to Junior. I've been with the foundation for about 2 months. A good friend of mine, Elise Keaton, who was a lawyer in Colorado, had actually just moved back a couple of months ago to take over the position after Larry passed away. And being here and being in his state is some incredibly large shoes to fill, and I do not expect to fill them, but I'm here to tell you my story, so here it goes. I was born in Logan County, West Virginia. I'm a sixth-generation coal miner. That being said, when I was growing up, I was about 12 years old, and they were doing some mountaintop removal probably about a half a mile away from my house. Well, they set up a distinct amount of charges and everything and started blasting. Well, there was a malfunction, and decidedly all of the charges went off at the same time. That is an extremely loud and big blast. And I have to add a little bit of humor because it's just so sad, the story that I'm about to tell you. Whenever they did this blast and the debris, uncontrollable from a blast, went everywhere. They sent a couple of boulders the size of Volkswagens through the back of my home where me and my younger two sisters were playing. And luckily, I grabbed my sisters and ran towards the living room to, consult my mom, being 12 years old, scared to death. And living, on that close to a strip mine and experiencing what I went through, I'm speechless as of right now just to tell you this. So we moved. Obviously, we lived in a hotel for about a month until we could find another place to stay. While we were living at the hotel, my dad worked as a UMWA miner for Arch Coal, worked there for 30 years. And this is a little bit into the deep mining aspect. He was a pinner. Basically, he shot roof bolts up through the ceiling to hold the face of the mine up and everything. Well, the hydraulics stuck on the machine and pinned his arm against a piece of slate. And the pinners the amount of hydraulic pressure on those pinners is about 26 tons per square inch. So it literally crushed his arm, and the doctors really couldn't operate. They couldn't do anything, just try to keep him as healthy as possible, because they said if they would have operated, the bones would have rolled out like grains of sand. So after that, he retired from the mines. He was actually old enough to retire and draw a Social Security disability, and we bought a farm in Spencer, West Virginia. About 6 months later, they started doing gas well drilling on top of our 140 acres that we did not have the mineral rights to. So there was absolutely nothing we could do to stop them. Natural resource extraction is a detriment to more than just my family. I mean, it's a detriment to everybody's family. The aquifer in West Virginia, in the southern Appalachian region, it extends roughly around 260 square miles. That is the surrounding state's drinking water. I mean, what is a mountain if not but a giant brittle water filter? And the next little bit I'm going to tell you about is after I graduated high school. Being from a coal community, there's not a lot of opportunity except for coal mining or to get out of the state. So I took my 60-hour mining course, got my red hat, and went down to the mines. I never did any strip mine, but when I went into the deep mine. It was 1,400 feet below ground. I worked 12 hours. I worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. From the time that it was an hour drive away from my home, it was a 45-minute ride down the slanted elevator to where we actually went to work. a good friend of mine that I had went to high school with had got me a job, and we actually I worked there for about 6 months, and they hired on another good friend of ours that we went to high school with, good old mountain boys mining coal. And if I choke up here in the next little bit, this is my first tour out, and it's extremely kind of hard to talk about this, but I know that if I don't stand up and take a stand and educate people, then there will be no change. And the work that Larry described, that is the work that change is made of. So we were pulling timbers, closing out the back section of the mine, and I was probably about 60, 80 feet away from my friend. I'm not going to disclose any names because of personal family reasons, but we were working, we were pulling timbers, and there was a section on the line that they just had too many timbers set up too close together, and he was what's called a red hat. When you work in the mines, you're a red hat for the first 3 months that you work there. After that, you get your black hat, which is an established miner. He had worked there for about a month and a half, and I'd known this guy my entire life, good friends of the family, and we were pulling timbers, and he just messed up and pulled one too many, too close, started a cave-in. Now this is in Buffalo Creek when they opened up that new section when they found the extended coal in 2005, and he pulled the timber too close and started a cave-in. And we both knew what was happening. We reacted. We both took off towards the face of the mine. Well, when a cave-in starts, there's an extremely large black cloud of coal dust that's sweeping through the mine. I lost him there for a second. I'm like, the way you communicate when you're underground because of the noise and the machinery and stuff is you flash your light. You try to flag your other member down. And I flagged him down, and I got to his light. And we were meeting up no further than say, meet this gentleman right here. And the mine started collapsing around both me and him. And we're running out towards the face, and a piece of slate falls. Roof bolt breaks, a piece of slate falls. Right off. I seen the light roll on the ground towards me. After that night, I had never stepped foot back inside of a mine, and I never will. The amount of detriment that coal impacts on not only the political, the ecological, but the stress that it causes families not knowing if your son or if your husband is going to make it home that day is just, it's overwhelming. And like I said, I moved from coal mining to fracking, and no matter where you go, from Beckley, West Virginia to Wheeling to Logan to Coal River, you can't get away from it, and that's 200,000 people's lives, So that's why I'm here today, and it was a great honor to be asked to come with Junior and to speak here in Larry's stead. And like I said earlier, those are some big shoes to fill. But I hope that what I've told you guys here, that just being self-aware, conscious of your energy consumption. I mean, it's a great help. And we ask that, we all breathe the same air and drink the same water. Everybody has to do their part. And like I said, I'm a 6th generation coal miner. My eyes weren't open until many, many moons later. And now that my eyes are open, there is no lengths that I will not go. There is no place that I will not go and tell a 7-year-old who wants to hear me speak. You know what I mean? So with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Junior Talk, and I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Junior Walk. I'm 22 years old, born and raised in southern West Virginia in the Coal River Valley on the border of Raleigh and Boone County. Like Chase had mentioned, we're here in the stead of Larry Gibson, who passed away not too long ago. Larry was a close friend and mentor of mine, and I'm very thankful to have got to work with him for the past couple of years before he passed away. But I really wish y'all would have got to hear him speak and to meet him, because he was a very powerful man. And if you get a chance, you should definitely look up YouTube videos of him talking and telling his story, because it's very powerful stuff. Like Chase, I grew up, in the heart of the coal fields. I had poisoned water when I was a little kid. From the time I was 12 years old until I was 17, the water used to come out of my tap blood red every single day, smelling like sulfur. And that's I didn't learn until I was a little bit older, but that's from an underground coal sludge injection site on the ridgeline above my parents' home. And for those of y'all who don't know, coal sludge is this thick, viscous, black, liquidy stuff that's the byproduct of cleaning the coal, cleaning it, taking it through a series of chemical washes so that it's suitable to be burnt in a power plant for the Clean Air Act. And the way they dispose of this waste, they either pump it into abandoned underground coal mines like they did on the ridgeline above my home, where they put it in these giant earthen dams. And like when I'm talking about these dams, it's not rebar and steel, it's dirt and rock and rubble from these mountaintop removal operations that they just pile up in the face of a holler and then fill in the whole backside of the holler with this coal sludge. And there's one of these dams that sits above my parents' house about a mile above. It's the Brushy Fork Coal Sludge Impoundment. It holds back currently about 8.9 billion gallons of sludge, and there's an active mountaintop removal operation not 300 yards from it. And they're setting off blasts every single day right there, right at the face of the dam. And if that were to ever break, then by the industry's own estimates, over 1,000 people would die. The entire Coal River Valley would be left uninhabitable. This place that I've called home, the place that I grew up at, would be left uninhabitable when this thing collapses. And they just got their permits the other day to raise the face of the dam to the point where it will be larger than the Hoover Dam. You can't tell me that that's a good idea, because it's not. But also around this time when I was growing up, I went to elementary school at this place called Marsh Fork Elementary, which some of you may have heard of. It's situated about 300 yards from a coal preparation plant where they, process the coal, and like I was talking about earlier, and another coal sludge dam that sits about 300 yards away from the school. This one holds back about 6 billion gallons, so not quite as much as Brushy Fork, but, plenty enough to wipe out a small school full of kids. Thankfully, though, after fighting for about 5 or 6 years, tooth and nail, every step of the way, organizations like the Keeper of the Mountains Foundation and Coal River Mountain Watch that I work with in Appalachia have, they finally got enough funding and enough money to get a new school built upriver of all of the coal mining operations that's still not too far from the original school, so all the same kids still get to go to it. And that opened up in January, and that's been one of the hugest victories that we've won in this fight. And y'all should definitely look up more information about it if you're interested. And so after I got through school, graduated high school, I was really excited to get out of West Virginia and never turn back. I didn't think there was anything there for me. And but as I came to find out, you kind of need money to go to college, and money's something that me and my family didn't quite have. And so I had this decision out in front of me. I could either, honestly, there are only 3 decisions unless you're lucky enough to get to college when you graduate high school in West Virginia. You can either go to work for the coal mines, you can go into the military, or you can sell prescription drugs, and that's that. And so I did what my dad did, and a lot of people in my family. I went to work for the coal industry. I went to work at the Elk Run coal prep plant. I worked there for about 6 months with my dad. He still works there today. And some days wasn't so bad. They just had me cutting the grass or what have you. But occasionally I'd be up on the belt lines, hundreds of feet in the air, on this tiny steel grate about this big, just not tied off on anything. Could have tripped and fell right to my death right there. Nobody would have been able to do nothing about it. Some days I'd be in the basement of the plant, waist deep in coal sludge, no respirator, no goggles, nothing like that, spraying it down with a pressure hose to get pumped into the sludge impoundment up above this plant. And this is the third sludge impoundment, by the way. These are all different places in the Coal River Valley. And so I worked there for about 6 months, and I quit that job because I looked at my dad, and the man's in his late 40s, takes more medication than some 80-year-olds. I know some people in this room have met my father, and they can attest to that. And I just knew that I didn't want to end up in that situation when I was his age, not being able to enjoy my life at that point. And so I quit that job, and I floated around from job to job for a little while, and a friend of the family offered me a position as a security guard on a surface mine. And I figured, sitting on my hind end for 12 hours a day making money, I can handle that. And so I jumped right on the job. I took it. But within the first week of me getting up there and looking out at what was going on, and watching those machines tear down that mountain, I just felt like the most miserable human being you could ever imagine. I felt like I had blood on my hands because I knew what the people that lived below that mountain were going through, because it was the same things I went through when I was a kid. And I knew I had to do something about it. And so I started coming around Coal River Mountain Watch when Judy Bonds was still around. For those of y'all who don't know, Judy Bonds was also a very prominent activist from our area. She won the Goldman Environmental Award back in 2003. And I was raised around this woman. She used to work at the gas station with my grandmother. And so I went up to her and I asked her what I could do to help. And I started volunteering with Coal River Mountain Watch while I was still a security guard. And she had me, to start off with, I was writing for the newsletter, but I had to do it anonymously so that I wouldn't get fired and so my dad wouldn't get fired. And so what I would do, I didn't have a laptop computer at the time, I couldn't afford one, and so I'd take my desktop, put it in the passenger seat of my car, drive it to work with me, run an extension cable out to the power box, and type out articles for the Coal River newsletter while getting paid as a security guard. So that's pretty great. But yeah, I worked that job also for about 6 months, and Judy offered me a position at Coal River, the staff position, and I was originally hired on as her assistant. But I had this decision, I had to make, whether I was going to keep doing what I was doing, keep my head down, not worry about all these issues, or I could, take a stand and do what I knew was right and face whatever consequences I had to because of that, which is what I decided to do. And because of that, a lot of my extended family won't speak to me anymore. I had a cousin. This is a boy that I was raised with. We were like brothers. And when I started doing this work, he came up to me and said, like, oh, I'm so disappointed in you, all this and that. And it boiled down to me looking at him like, so what? What are you going to do about it? And he told me, he looked at me square in the eye and said, next time I see you out, I'm going to gut you like a deer. And I just looked at him and I was like, I'm right here, buddy. Anytime you feeling like it. But I ain't seen him since. And my parents had to kick me out of their home, not because they disagreed with me at all, but they do. They agree with pretty much everything I say, but because they knew that if I were living under my dad's roof and doing the things that I do now and saying the things I do now, like, he'd get fired in an instant, lose his job in a heartbeat. And that man, he doesn't have a high school diploma. That's the best job he's going to get. I wasn't going to put him in that position. And so I left the house. I knew that's how it was going to have to happen. But there's something wrong when a coal company can tell you that you have to kick your kid out of your house or you're going to lose your job. I thought we lived in, a free country, the United States of America, not under some fascist dictatorship. But we do, You got to look at it a little bit closer. There are communities in this country that are, no different than communities under, totalitarian fascist state. West Virginia is one of those places. But so I've been at this work for about 4 years now. I'm really excited that there's new folks coming in like Chase who are willing to share their stories and bring the word out to folks like y'all. There's a lot of ways that people can plug into the work, especially young college students. There are various organizations that house volunteers in Appalachia that will feed you and house you in exchange for you working for us and helping us out. There's another organization that I work with called the RAMPS campaign, which was mentioned earlier. It's a nonviolent direct action campaign based in southern West Virginia. We're the crazy people who climb up in their trees or lock to their equipment until the police come haul us off. And so if any of y'all are interested in that, I highly recommend getting a hold of me. And I can get you to a place where you can affix yourself to a big yellow machine. We can make that happen together. But yeah, that's about my story, I suppose. If Chase, if you want to come back up here, we can take some questions and hopefully answer them. Y'all can ask us any questions you want. If we don't know the answer, we'll lie to you.
Well said, sir.
Thank you.
I'll just start since I'm right here. I wondered if you could talk a little bit for the people who maybe don't understand exactly, some of the issues of mountaintop removal and some of the battles that have been fought to, work with environmental protection agencies and those type of personnel to actually address the problem.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say that any of our regulators, whether it's state or federal, have been nothing but a roadblock so far, in this entire fight for the past 15, 20 years, ever since Larry Gibson started fighting this back in the 80s. They've been in our way the whole way, and they're not going to help us because, at least in the state of West Virginia, like the entire state is owned by the coal industry. That's the regulators and all. And, the federal government may as well be. It's not quite as blatant as it is in West Virginia, but it's still there. And they're not going to do anything to help us until we make them. But yeah, I think that, I don't know if that was your whole question. If you want to, clarify a little bit. Sorry.
I just noticed that, I think there are a lot of people in the audience who are really aware of some of the issues, but there may be some that maybe don't have the background knowledge on, how long this has been going on, what other states it affects in addition to West Virginia, that sort of thing.
Right, yeah. Well, mountaintop removal happens in West Virginia and eastern Kentucky and southern Virginia and parts of Tennessee. But there is open pit and surface mining for a lot of different reasons all around the country. The only reason that there's only mountaintop removal in those states is because of the topography of the mountains. There's stuff going on out in Arizona and out west, like out toward Black Mesa and those areas with indigenous folks out there, that open pit mining, this is just as bad as what's going on here. But what we're calling mountaintop removal affects like those general areas that I named earlier. And honestly, the modern surface mining fight started, I would say, with Larry Gibson in the 1980s, whenever he came back to Cayford Mountain and seen that it was being destroyed, the home of his ancestors, and decided to stand up and do something about it. But even before that, in the 60s and 70s, there was a large anti-surface mining movement all throughout West Virginia and eastern Kentucky. Y'all may have heard of the Widow Combs, an older woman back in the 70s who laid down in front of a bulldozer at her home in Kentucky. And so yeah, this fight has been ongoing for a really long time. And even if you want to connect it in with other fights, Appalachia has been a hotbed of resistance for the past 150 years. You want to look at the Union struggles, the war on Blair Mountain that lasted for 5 days, where federal troops were called in. The only time in U.S. history when federal troops had fired on American citizens on American soil, and the only time in U.S. history where bombs were dropped from planes on U.S. citizens on a U.S. soil. Appalachia has been a hotbed of resistance for a really long time, and I would like to think that we're continuing that legacy.
Absolutely. And just to add, like you said, how it affects people culturally, ecologically, economically. Like you said, it's been such a struggle. My grandfather was one of the miners who wore the red bandana that marched on top of Blair Mountain, and my grandmother didn't know what was going to happen. I have eight uncles and aunts altogether, and that's a lot of mouths to feed. If he didn't come home, how was she going to take care of that many people? So there's that aspect. When my grandfather started working in the mines, he got paid in script. And I don't know if a lot of you know what script is, but it's basically fake money. Basically, the coal company who owned the company store would hire you to work for them. You would work for them. They would pay you this. And if you wanted housing, food, you know, the necessities, you gave that money right back to them. So it was essentially slave-free labor. And a lot of the earlier organizations, United Mine Workers, and really fought hard to give, you know, union contract mine workers the ability to make money that they could spend in Kentucky or Indiana, West Virginia, all over the place. So, I mean, it's a huge detriment to our society.
Y'all got more questions? Yeah, come up to the microphone if you want.
I was just wondering if you could share some memories of Larry Gibson, some thoughts or stories or memories.
Well, I was really lucky to be able to work with Larry for about 4 years, and you know, that man lived and breathed this work. Like, Larry Gibson was this fight. You know, that he didn't have anything else to him but this fight, and you know, he's just he was one of the most powerful people I've ever met in my life. And if it wasn't for him and Judy Bonds, I wouldn't be standing here today. I wouldn't be doing this work. My life would be radically different right now. But yeah, I was just thinking about this funny story of Larry earlier today on the drive down. But the first time I went to go speak with him anywhere, we flew up to Chicago together. And on the flight up, he handed me a stack of pamphlets and was like, "Boy, why don't you run up there and put one of these in every one of these seat backs there?" And I was like, "All right, Larry, I'll do it." And I was so afraid I was going to get tackled by the TSA. It was not even funny. That and I know at the Charleston airport at the same time, he went in there with a Sharpie marker and wrote "Stop Mountaintop Removal" in the bathroom and wrote OVEC's phone number up under that, which is another organization in Appalachia. Yeah, there's a lot of funny stories about Larry.
Actually, the first time I met Larry was in Charleston, West Virginia, at a rally and a questionnaire panel, and I was with a friend of mine who did a lot of aerial photography over over West Virginia in the Appalachian Mountains. It was a good friend of mine's grandfather. We all went down. We got there was actually a couple of events, like Willie Nelson played music there. It was a big ordeal, and he had. How had he hurt his hand? Because this was a while ago. But
That's when he got arrested at the Capitol back in 2005.
When they arrested him at the Capitol, they break his hand?
They dislocated his shoulder.
Dislocated his shoulder.
Messed with his hand somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Anyway, he came out with this big bandage on his arm, and his arm was 3 times its normal size. And he came out on stage and he said, "Well, you just can't let them keep you down." And he's a very, very quirky old man, but he's seen, what we could bring and what future generations could bring our kids as kids, on down the line, and knew that change had to start somewhere. And he knew that he was up in his years and up in his age. And for him to pass on his legacy and us to get to continue it, it's so humbling. I can't even put it into words. Any other questions?
Hi guys, my name is Drew. I want to thank you for coming here today. I'm an alumni of UNCA. I've been working in the clean energy industry for a number of years, and I live in South Asheville in the Arden area where the Progress plant, in the wintertime I have mountain views of the smoke, so I'm aware of, the steam, whatever's coming out of there. But from you, I want to get your perspective, because knowing that coal is, the reason that this is happening is because it's energy source, right? So we're generating energy. So from your perspective, what is a better position, or for, I think North Carolina imports 65% of their power generation with coal consumption. So do you look at clean energy as an alternative, whether it's solar, geothermal, other sources of generating power, or do you look at energy efficiency, which really boils down to a consumer's mindset to make decisions that are more efficient and less consumption, and maybe they just pay their bill every month, but they don't realize what ramifications are occurring by not changing. So just want to get some feedback.
Exactly, and that's a lot of what people don't understand is the ramifications of what it causes. We are actively, at least Keepers of the Mountain specifically, we are looking to put in solar farms on Cayford Mountain and a few other places here in West Virginia. I mean, you got to start small, but you got to start somewhere. And we've already got the solar panels. We've applied through the EPA to get grants to fund these programs. I mean, we're a nonprofit, volunteer-based organization, so it's us. It's the people that puts in the work and puts in the time. And things are moving, not as fast as everybody would like, and it's certainly not as fast as we would like, but plans are going into effect, and we're doing what we can with what we have.
I just want to add real quick and mention that plant in Asheville, as I understand it, is switching over to natural gas, which is awful in its own self, you know. And I just want to say that that's a great way to link the two fights, you know, coal and natural gas. Is like, you know, the coal industry right now in southern West Virginia is in a slump. Like, and we've definitely used that to our advantage, and we're winning right now in West Virginia. They're not mining places that they were mining 2 or 3 years ago now because it's just not economically feasible anymore because of the rise of natural gas. But that just means we're going to have to double down harder on that front too. You know, it's hydrofracking poisons people's water just as much as coal does, and you know it's all the same fight. If you want to like link it back to the root causes, it's all rich people who don't care about poor people, and that's the bottom line of it.
Could have said it better myself.
Hey y'all, my name is John, and I just want to thank you for coming out and talking to us. I have tremendous admiration for the work y'all are doing. It's pretty incredible. So thank you. My question is, you both talked about how extremely limited the options are for a young person who's coming to working age. Do you see that situation changing at all? Has there been any progress on that front? And what do you think needs to happen, or what is your vision for alternatives to the coal industry or the military or, you know, pushing drugs?
Man. Well, to answer that, West Virginia's obviously the number one cash crop is coal. It's number two is tourism. West Virginia is a beautiful, beautiful place, and there's all kinds of hiking, adventure trails, everything that you can do, and there's a lot of economy that can be generated from that. I actually, after the incident with my friend and working in the mine, I actually moved to Dayton, Ohio, and started a couple of restaurants and stuff out there. Due to the economy and GM and everything shutting down and the bailouts and everything, I actually lost both of my restaurants and my house. But it was when that happened, I saw West Virginia. You know, I'm coming back home. I live in Charleston, West Virginia. Like I said, I walk to work. If I don't walk, I take public transportation. You know, I try to reduce my carbon footprint on the world. And I make enough working at a cafe with an associate's degree. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, I make $9.75 an hour with an associate's degree, and where you can make $7.75 with no degree. There are jobs. There are ways that you can work and take care of your family without mining, without, you know, destroying everything that I grew up to love. I mean, from hunting with my grandfather in Wirt County to fishing to fishing. I mean, just all the stuff that, you know, us mountain boys like to do when we grow up, the stuff that we're taught. There are ways. It's just a lot of it's it's necessity and greed. And it's a powerful combo when it comes down to it.
And I just want to add real quick, like, the people of West Virginia and all of Appalachia, like, before the coal industry ever came through 150, 160 years ago, they were sustenance farmers. You know, they took care of themselves. They lived off the land. And our people in West Virginia today can still do that. You know, we still know how to grow a garden. We know how to hunt. You know, we know how to fish. We know how to take care of ourselves if we could just be left alone to do it. And that's really always my answer to the jobs question.
And I actually have something to add on that.
Yeah.
When we went, me and Junior attended a panel about a month ago in West Union, West Virginia, and we went to this, what was it, Doddridge County?
Yeah.
We went to the Doddridge County, and there were some speakers there from the Doddridge County Watershed Association. And it was, basically it was an open questionnaire panel. Everybody on the panel talked for a little bit, and they opened up to questions. And one of the people that lived in Doddridge County where they're doing all the fracking, he wanted to live off-grid. He wanted to come to West Virginia, raise his garden, and just, be content with himself there. Due to fracking, the chemicals and stuff that are released back into the aquifer, and the stuff that like the soot and stuff, like once you spark a natural gas well, they burn it for 3 or 4 days constantly. And all this soot and ash, I mean, it goes everywhere. And they come through and they spray this, what was that, brine water? And what do you think of when you hear brine water? Salt. And it was just salt water, supposedly to wash away all this stuff. He couldn't grow food, and it's getting to the point where if we don't do something now and we don't act fast, it is going to be our children. It's going to start with us. It already has with past generations, and it's going to be our children and our children's children and all of our families that's going to suffer from this. And once they get done with West Virginia, the Appalachian Mountain Range is a big place. They're going to start going to other states, and it's going to be rather than a statewide problem, it's going to be a eastern seaboard problem. So just be conscious. Yeah, I believe the gentleman in the back has been trying to ask a question.
I'm wondering if you could have found any allies within the United Mine Workers, the actual labor unions that might be there, and also any other specific steps, like I know you can't just take the big step of stopping all mountaintop removal. What are the baby steps? Just lay out for us what the goals are short term and then 1, 2 year, 3 year down the road.
Yeah, as far as the UMWA is concerned, that's a bit of a story. But back in the 1980s, Massey Energy came through southern West Virginia and bought up most of the coal mines in the area, and told all the workers, you're either not union anymore or you ain't got a job. And at that point, the UMWA, there were strikes and stuff for a little while, but for the most part, they just rolled over and said, okay, and so honestly, the modern version of what the UMWA has pretty much bowed its head to the coal industry and told them they could do whatever they want. And that's not to say that all members of the union and all the rank and file are like that, because we do find a lot of allies in old retired UMWA miners and folks who really cling strongly to the values that the UMWA used to represent. But for the most part, the actual national organization of the UMWA now, today, they're lobbying in Washington, D.C. for mountaintop removal. They're not our friends.
And as to the part of your question where you're asking, what steps that we're taking, what steps that we can doing, me and him here today is one of those steps. And obviously we all can't take the big step, but just simply when you go out of a room, not to be your dad, but turn off the light. Stuff like that, being able to just, like I said, be conscious of your energy use, try to take the greenest route you can. And a lot of the things that we're doing, like I said, we're trying to get the solar panel farm set up on Cayford Mountain. There's been talks of a windmill farm up on the Coal River Valley, and just it's been a lot of little organizations from these counties, these families and people bonding together, that forming Keepers of the Mountain, Coal River Mountain Watch, the Blair Walkers Foundation. I mean, it's all these people coming together, and we're not as a whole yet. But we are trying. We are getting out. We're talking to people. We're, telling our stories, giving you facts. And don't, for anything that we've said here tonight, don't believe us. Fact check us, because the facts speak through themselves. And that's where the big coal companies have really drove that secret into the ground and have tried to hide it for the past, 150 years?
I forgot to ask this at dinner, but for those of you who weren't there, I was lucky enough to visit Caperd Mountain last summer and meet Larry. Now that he's gone, maybe you can talk about what Keepers of the Mountains Foundation has planned for Caperd Mountain. Is it in a, is it permanently protected? Is it in a trust? Is it something that can be, you mentioned tourism, and it's a little awkward to do tourism on somebody's property when they're living there and stuff, but I guess what does Caperd Mountain's future look like in terms of bringing school groups there? Is it something that's going to be available for the foreseeable future? Is it going to be expanded? How will it look different?
As far as that goes, we welcome everyone there. The actual 50 acres. Let me tell you a little bit of the backstory about Caperd Mountain, and it'll give you a little bit of the inside look of some of the big coal. About I think it was 1898, they did a deed search on the land, and whenever that they were going through and everything, it was supposedly sold to the Stanley heirs family, who's now I think it's like 16 or 17 descendants, and Larry was one of those that had part of the land trust. And basically, what they did is the people that the big coal company that is actually strip mining there, right beside Caperd, they actually, when they did the deed search for the property, for the rest, it was 450 acres. The Caperd Mountain, the land trust that they have now is 50 acres. The other 400 acres, as you go up to Caperd Mountain, there's a sign by the mining entrance on the right, and it says Stanley Heritage Land, $1, because they forged up a contract with 3 X's, and that was supposedly the deed trust for the other 400. And after that, and them trying to get the other 50 acres, Larry and his all the descendants, they enveloped it into a land trust. So it is for that family. There's like 15 cabins up there ran by solar panels and stuff, and we're really trying to give that was the whole idea with the solar panel farm, was to give clean energy and set up some clean aquifers to give the people in the surrounding area, right beside the strip mine, clean drinking water, energy, so they felt that they didn't have to depend on it. Apparently that was pretty good.
Thank you for sharing all of this with us. I wanted to ask you what you feel like that people here, granted I know some people will probably come up to West Virginia for various actions, but for people who are kind of grounded here and around here, what are some things that we can do to support what's going on with y'all up there? Like whatever, if that's phone calls to whoever or just different things you might suggest.
Everybody has a voice, no matter where you're at in the United States, and that's something that has been, at least in West Virginia, has been drilled out. But as far as the people around here goes, we ask that you get involved in the best way that you can think of, and whether that means writing a letter to your legislature, making phone calls, asking what I can do, what can be done to help provide a strong front for this effort, and just letting them know that you have a voice and that you are going to do your best to make change in whatever way that you can. Obviously, we have a sign-in sheet. You can get in touch with Keepers of the Mountains Foundation and Coal River Mountain Watch, the Blair Appalachian Walk, and all these foundations, and just contact us, and we'll definitely reach out and find some way to get you involved, whether it be coming and getting you and bringing you down and letting you stay out on the mountain for a week.
Yeah, and I just like to add to that, first and foremost, what folks ought to do is just tell every single person about what's going on, because not enough people know about it. And be sure to just spread the story, tell the stories about what you heard here today to every single person that you know. And also, I would say, in Asheville, there are a lot of different issues going on, you know, social and environmental issues that you could get involved with. And like, if you're fighting injustice like anywhere, then you're fighting it everywhere, you know. I mean, it don't matter what you're working on, as long as you're working on something good, you know, and make sure it's like work on something in your backyard. You know, I mean, that's not saying don't come up to West Virginia and lock yourself to something, but, you know.
Because we will take you.
Yeah.
I guess one more thing I was wondering is I get the impression from some of the things you said tonight that that because so many of the people who are in the regulatory positions up there, and because of the whole state, that so much of the jobs are owned by the coal company, even the governmental jobs, that's probably like the least effective path in the state for trying to put any kind of change in place.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there are people who do work on that regulatory front and people who lobby. You know, there's people who do every single facet of this work that you can think of. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's less effective or more effective than anything else. It's just, in my opinion, I think that it's much more effective to like affix yourself to something and make sure that they can't do the work than to go lobby somewhere. But that's just me, you know. Everybody's got their own opinions. And I think that work is completely valid and like it should be done, but yeah.
Thank you.
So, on that note that you just mentioned, I would really like you to define what the long-term benefits of direct action are going to be. I mean, let's say you affix yourself to lock yourself down to a bulldozer, they saw you off, they throw you in jail, you pay your fine. So give us what's the effectiveness of that? What is the goal of that? And lay that out for us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, like all the direct actions that we do in West Virginia are backed by a lot of community support. And if there weren't the community support there, then we wouldn't be able to do the actions. But also, the fact that whenever you're putting yourself out there like that and you're locking yourself to something and getting arrested, it's inspiring to people that live around, like whether or not they'll admit it or not, to know that there's somebody willing to take that stand and say no to the coal company. And say no with everything they have, because that's not normal. You don't see that in West Virginia. And and like I got arrested back in 2011 helping with a tree sit. And after I got out of jail, I had phone calls left and right from people who lived all up and down the Coal River Valley, where I'm from, telling me thank you. And like these are people who, if they see me out at the convenience store, would look the other way because they're afraid of being seen around me or whatever. But they're going to call me and say thank you, but that don't mean they're going to go out and lock themselves to something. But so I think it plants that seed of resistance in people's minds, and reminds them that they can tell the industry where it can go.
I have another question. So we watched the documentary last night on Coal River where they mentioned the elementary school that you spoke of, that you went to. Have there been any other, and you mentioned that as a victory, can you talk about any other victories, like maybe since Larry started this work and since you all have taken it on, like, reparations for the families that have died and their health issues and clean water, that sort of thing? Can you just talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to say there have been a number of lawsuits around water contamination due to coal sludge and things of that nature, and surface mining in general, and especially like up in Printer, West Virginia, which is a couple miles from my parents' house, where there were clusters of brain tumors and really like rare kinds of cancers, and they won a lawsuit last year to get a water line put through their town and the sum money damages. And there's been numerous lawsuits against surface mines because of selenium discharges and things like that, different environmental based things that have cost them a lot of money, made it more expensive for them to mine the coal there. And it's due to a lot of that work that we're seeing a lot of coal mines get idled right now, and they're not working on them. And so that's definitely been a big victory over the past 2 years or so. Have seats.
Yeah, I'd also want to thank you for coming. Do you think some of the resistance to change and regulation is that the United States has put this push on independence from foreign oil? And coal is here. Natural gas is here. What can be done to let Congress, or maybe the president, although, you know, it doesn't seem to have changed depending on who's in, to let them know that we want regulation enforced. I believe the regulations are on the books. It's just nobody enforces them. It doesn't really matter what state you're in. It seems like they're sort of, they'll have 43,000 violations and fines, which mean nothing.
Exactly.
So if you can, do you think that's the way to go, is to let elected officials know that they may be held accountable for allowing these things not to be enforced?
Absolutely, and at least my opinion, that they absolutely should be held accountable. And you ask what you can do. Well, what we did in West Virginia, actually, we had a rally. What was it, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, something like that.
And it was basically all these college students were taking an alternative spring break and coming to Doddridge County, and that's where we all met up and had the panel and stuff. And through the tours and stuff that I've given on Caford and things like that, the amount of people that are actually from West Virginia, I did 3 tours over the course of 3 weeks, and not a one of the students were from West Virginia, and that speaks mountains, pun intended. I mean, just getting everybody aware and self-conscious about what is going on and what is happening. And I don't really know too much, to be honest, about, you know, like, I know we have an extreme dependency on foreign oil and the repercussions of what we're going to do to try to affect that. But for what we are, we're a small volunteer-based organization. We're starting on the home front and working out. But being able to come here, you know, hopefully you guys learned something today that you did not know before. And maybe my story or Junior's story moved, if it moved, and I'm sure he feels the same way, if it moved 2 people in this room to want to make a better tomorrow, then we've done our job. Thank you.
I just want to, on behalf of UNC Asheville, thank you both for coming out, and I'm sure people would love to meet you in the back after we're done. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to us and everything. Appreciate it.
And like I said, like I was introduced, my name is Chase Brown. You can look me up on Facebook. We share everything that the Coal River Mountain Watch does, the Keepers of the Mountains, the pictures, the tours and stuff. It's all on my Facebook, pictures, everything. A lot of contact information for like the board of directors and the fundraising director, Elise Keaton, who's actually the one that invited me to come down here today. All that information is on there. And I implore you, please, reach out, contact us, and we'll do what we can. Thank you, guys.